We are live at Bellagio inside the O Theater. If you get a chance, you've got to see O, literally the best Cirque show in Vegas. They're all great, but I think this is the best one. And not just because Jessi is one of the high divers. And well, first let me ask, you're the only female who goes from the highest
Yes,
dive.
currently that is correct.
That is correct. So what do you do here? What's your role in the show?
There's many. I am an all-around acrobat, diver, aerialist, you name it, I do it. We've got lots of different acts, and I usually jump off of stuff and flip around a lot.
I jump off of stuff and flip around. Can you describe your business and your career that way? As a youngster, little Jessi, what were you like growing up? What was life for you? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Michigan, in a small town, pretty much opposite of Vegas, about as far away as you can get on the spectrum, which is good. I'm thankful for that. It gave me a very grounded upbringing and I had a great family life. My parents and family and friends were amazing growing up.
And what was it like? Early on, did you show signs? I remember hearing stories of what little Jessi was like.
Yes, I think I've always been a performer at heart. Never shy, never withdrawn at all. I love to be in front of people. I love to talk. I love to dance and sing and perform and all that kind of stuff. I was a gymnast from a very young age, so my parents put me in gymnastics classes because I had too much energy. They didn't know what to do with me, so it kind of just started from there.
Very cool. And so you had energy. Did you ever dream when you were little? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I think that changed pretty much every day. I had a lot
Knowing you, I'm not surprised.
Right. I had a lot of ambitions, a lot of goals in life, and I think I always wanted to be around people. I always wanted to be having a lot of fun, and I was a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, even as a kid. So,
So nothing's changed.
No, nothing's changed.
And did you ever dream that you'd be doing something like this for a living?
You know what? Not until very recently. I think I was a competitive gymnast when I started out.
And I bet very competitive.
I absolutely very, very competitive. Although, because I was in such a small town growing up, the facility we had was small. The coaches we had were, we're not talking Bella Caroli here,
We'll pretend I know who that is. For those of us listening who don't know Bella
Caroli is probably one of the most renowned Olympic coaches in the history of gymnastics.
I wanted to help our viewers out.
No problem. So, I think as any athlete, competitive athlete's dreams are, I think the Olympics was my number one.
Mm-hmm.
But after I passed about age 16, I realized that wasn't going to happen. So I had to look for other avenues to continue doing what I loved.
And tell us a little bit about the story of how did you end up here at Cirque? Were there steps along the way?
Absolutely, yes. It was a very long and tedious journey, and I didn't really know it along the way, like I said, until right as I got here. I was a competitive gymnast all through college, high school, college, and I went on a family vacation to a SeaWorld in Ohio. It doesn't exist anymore, but I saw
Not because of you, right?
No, no. I saw a water ski show. They had some gymnastics in it, some tumbling, and I just sat there and I just realized that I wanted to do something like that, and this would be a great, fun thing, a dream of mine to do. And my father, who is a always supportive, loving man, who is also a very well-known businessman, looked at me and said, "Why don't you just run off and join the circus?" I think those words have haunted him to this day.
Be careful what you say to your children.
Yes. But actually, I finished my schooling. I got a business degree from Central Michigan University. And once I graduated, I decided I wanted to do this for a living. I started at theme parks and state fairs and all kinds of little shows. Theaters and things like that. With my gymnastics and acrobatic background, it gave me a good step into that world, and one show led to the other, and a lot of years went by, a lot of shows, a lot of experience, and then one day I got the call from Cirque du Soleil offering me an audition.
How did that feel?
It blew me away. I thought maybe they had the wrong person.
she's very humble.
I actually had planned on applying for Cirque du Soleil years and years ago, but I didn't think I was good enough. I thought, why would I waste my time for something? They've got world-class athletes, they've got Olympic gymnasts. There's no way I fit into that category as basically a quote-unquote carny for so long of my life. So to get that call was just amazing, humbling, and so exciting. It's just, when your dreams come true at that moment, you can't even describe it.
And how did they find out about Jessi?
That's a really great question.
You don't know?
I don't know. I did not apply. I knew a few people who had done shows in the past, but I don't know how much pull they had. I don't know. I think Cirque is really good at finding people. They have a lot of talent scouts. They have a lot of feelers out, and the performing world is small. So if you've been doing it for a while, they pretty much know who you are, and they find you. So I was fortunate enough for them to find me.
Now, I know you're humble, very humble, and have such humility, which I appreciate. But let's just ask this direct question. This is to help people. What do you think separates you from the average performer? Why do you think you stood out?
Man, that's a good question. I think I had a lot of experience. Over the years, I pretty much took every opportunity I could. If someone offered me a job, whether it was a small gig at a state fair where you literally had to tear down and set up the next day at the next city with minimal costumes, minimal set pieces, or if it was like a big SeaWorld, I didn't say no to any job. Any performing experience I could get, I took it.
And for those of you watching, does that sound familiar? Stage time, stage time, stage time. But where did that mindset come from? So that's perfect. And where do you think that came from?
I don't know. I was a pretty driven individual my whole life. My parents, expected a lot of us growing up. Everything from school. If I didn't get good grades, I wasn't allowed to do gymnastics. So that was a good motivator for me. So I think that I've always been, I'm a firstborn, I'm kind of a perfectionist, so everything I do, I really throw my heart and soul into it.
I've noticed that myself. And what do you think, now obviously performing every chance you could, and what I love to hear is that you were willing to do the minimalist jobs.
Yes.
Even if most of the work was actually not the performing part.
Yes.
But you had to do that in order to get the opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
So what would you say, other than that, was like the most important discipline that Jessi had to do?
I had to stay on top of practices. I had to put myself out there. People weren't coming to me and offering me jobs at first. I was always trying to improve. I was always trying to make myself better. I was trying to learn the things I didn't know. I knew I had to follow a path to get to where I wanted, and it wasn't easy. You had to be willing to put in the hours, the hard work, whether it was working on a resume or actually going out and physically training for whatever show I wanted to do next. There was a lot of involvement, and I had to give up a lot of things. I had to leave the country a few times. I had to be away from my family and friends.
Not for the witness protection?
No. No, not that time.
Not that. Okay. Different stuff. No.
No.
So you were just willing to do whatever it takes.
Absolutely.
And that's what I find is inspiring. And so let's go to SeaWorld. I know you performed at SeaWorld for a while. Where did that come from, first of all? How did that one come about?
I actually worked at 3 different SeaWorlds. The first one, I went on a vacation with my family, and we saw the show. And I said, I want to do this. So after the show, I spoke to some of the performers and said, what do I have to do to work here? And followed the steps.
Great question.
Yep.
Ask the people who are doing it what you need to do to get there,
Yes.
because they know.
Yes.
As opposed to other people might be giving you advice, well, you should do this, you should do that, but you don't know.
No. They were already there. They knew what it took. They gave me the right information, and that was my first step in the right direction.
And while you're at SeaWorld, what do you think you learned while performing at SeaWorld that helped you at Cirque?
Wow.
I didn't say this would be easy. This is to help people.
Every show that I did, starting at SeaWorld, every state fair, really built my own personal performing repertoire. It also built my confidence. I was exposed to people from different countries, from different backgrounds, different strengths, and I really was able to just grow and develop as a performer in so many ways because of that.
Now, did Jessi have any mentors along the way?
Many. I think my first one I have to give credit to is my gymnastics coach, Amy McDonald. She was,
How old were you then?
oh man, junior high maybe.
Okay.
She was the one that stayed with us the longest in my small town gymnastics center. Most of them came and went pretty quickly. So, and she and I became really close. And she was actually with me when I made that decision. Should I quit doing gymnastics and focus on other areas of my life, or should I continue it? And as a competitive gymnast, it's really hard to make that choice. Your body's changing, your interests are changing as you grow. If you're not going to go to the Olympics, there's not a lot of options for a gymnast, a performer.
And what did she tell you, or do you remember any specific advice that she gave you?
She just told me to never give up and to always do what I wanted to do. Didn't matter what people told me, didn't matter whatever people thought, what they said. It was in here. It was what I wanted, and she told me that I would be unstoppable if I really followed what I wanted to do.
You are unstoppable.
She was right.
Any other mentors that stood out along the way?
My parents, my family were always supportive, and I know it was really hard for them. I mean, someone with a business degree to go off and join the circus, I'm sure my parents are probably pulling their hair out from
My
time
parents
to time.
can relate. Business degree, comedian.
Yes, yeah. I had a coach at SeaWorld that literally took me by the hand and swam with me around in the water, which we'll get to this later too, but I had an awful, deathly fear of water.
What was his or her name?
That was Trevor Gagnon. He was a performer with me at SeaWorld years ago, and then he was actually my boss and one of the coaches later on at a SeaWorld. And he had a gymnastics background as well. To switch over to diving and water sports was probably a harder transition for me than most divers, since they're already used to it. So he was right there with me every step of the way, and very encouraging and very, he really could push my limits, and I needed that.
Do you remember anything specifically other than holding your hand that Trevor did for you?
He just really challenged me, really pushed my limits, told me that I was the only one that was going to make it happen. If I wanted to do it, I had to go for it.
And any other words of wisdom that stood out in your mind?
I had a lot of people supporting me over the years. Every coach I came in contact with, for the most part, they were all very, very supportive, and they believed in me, and they really challenged me. They said, no one can make this happen but you. And that really stuck with me as well.
No one.
You're right.
You're responsible.
You're right. Yep.
Did you have any times where you doubted whether you should stick to this or go get a business job?
Yes, there are many times. Finding performing jobs is very difficult. It's a small industry, and if you're not known, there's a lot of people out there that are usually more skilled and better or have more experience than you do, just like anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes you have to start low. Like you said, you can't say no to some of the smaller jobs. You really have to be willing to go out there and do what you have to.
And what did you do those days that you were thinking about giving up? What kept Jessi going?
Believe it or not, I took some time to try the other stuff for a while. If I didn't have
business type jobs?
Business type jobs, anything that was not performing. If I wasn't performing, I would go and apply at an office for a while, or do some events that I could, things like that. Just something different other than a performing world, and that really made me decide I didn't want to do that. It was really good motivation to go back to what I loved. If there was any doubt, they were gone after that.
Any challenges along the way? Any other than self-doubt? Any other? Not even sure. What challenges would be in your way?
Like I said, it's not easy to leave the things that you know, your hometown, your families, your friends, your comfort zone. It's difficult to step out and go where you don't know anybody there, you don't know the language, you don't know the culture, the foods, what you're going to expect to see when you get there. You may be asked to do something as a performer that you've never had to do before, and it can be scary, You don't know until you get there, so you have to be really open, and it was a challenge.
And so people understand how rare you are, that most of the world-class athletes here at O aren't even from the United States.
Right.
You're one of
Right.
you're
Right.
just like when I came back from Mexico, I was the gringo.
Yeah.
I stood out like a sore thumb. Most of
Yes.
the athletes,
Yes.
where do they come from?
We have a lot of people from Russia. We have a lot of French Canadian because the company is French Canadian, so that's kind of where it originated from.
Sure.
But we have from all over: Brazil, Colombia, Spain, Portugal, Asia, you name it. We've got people from everywhere, and it's just awesome to be in that environment.
What do you think is different for Cirque, working for Cirque? Like, do they have a much higher level of expectation? What's it like? Let's say compared to the Cirques you did growing
The
up,
shows
or the
before.
Carney. Sorry,
Yes,
the Carnies.
yes. There are so many differences. Cirque, in general, is gigantic. The company itself has thousands of employees, is known around the world. They are the best of the best. I mean, as a competitive athlete, the Olympics is the top. That's the best you can get. For a performer, Cirque du Soleil is the best you can get. There's nothing higher, there's nothing better. And their standards are high. You know, they don't let every carny off the street come in and apply and work. So,
And that keeps you having to perform, otherwise.
yes, oh yes. And you have to not only perform.
There's a
at your
line of
best.
people behind you.
There are. Yes, you don't want to slack off for a minute. Somebody will be right there to take your place. The professionalism is expected. You know, I've done a lot of shows where it's, you know, you go out, you flip around for a while, you entertain some kids at a theme park, you know, they love it. No one cares if, you know, you don't do a very good job or if you're not the most professional performer. It's just a lot of fun, and that's great. There's a time and a place for that, and I love that experience. Cirque has a very high standard. You know, not only do you need to be on the top of your game physically, on your performing, but professionally, your attitude towards people, how you treat one another, the safety issues that we're involved with. You know, everything has to be
First class.
first class. Absolutely.
What are some of the mistakes that you made along the way? That, let's say,
How much time do you have?
say if somebody wanted to do what you do, what are some of the mistakes that you made that, you know, maybe you learned a lesson from, or maybe you just realized, okay, that was stupid, let's move on?
Well, there's a lot of them. I made a lot of mistakes. I think the first one is I started too late. I had a lot of self-doubt. I kind of always put myself in that category of I'm not good enough. I'm never going to get there. So I was hesitant to try. I didn't start as soon as I should have.
Which is a lesson for anybody in any industry.
Yes. And although it worked out okay in the end, I mean, I needed to have all those smaller experiences to get where I am now. But I always think, you know, maybe if I would have applied years ago, I would have more than a few years here. I could have had, you know, 10, 15, 20 years here, like some people in the show have had.
And how did you overcome the self-doubt? I mean, that's a challenge for all of us.
It is. I think with every show and every experience that I was able to have came more confidence.
So it built your belief.
Absolutely. One of the other mistakes, I never actually applied for Cirque du Soleil, and I look back on that now, and I should have. I absolutely should have put myself out there. Now, when they called me to audition, that wasn't guaranteed a job.
Sure.
But at least I had a chance to audition, and there was a part of me that was like, no way, I'm not going. I will embarrass myself. I don't know what I'm going to get into. I'm glad that I went. I'm so glad that I went. But like I said, I should have done it sooner. I shouldn't have doubted myself. You can't ever win if you don't ever try. You know, and it takes. You may not always get it. You may not always get the results that you want, but you're never going to know otherwise.
And that leads to an important question. The day you auditioned, tell me about that.
It was actually a 2-day process.
Okay.
I flew myself out to Las Vegas. There were probably 200 people there.
Yikes. How did you feel walking in and seeing that?
It was pretty intimidating. It really was. I felt like every single person there was more talented, was better looking, was in better shape, that had more experience than I did.
Does that sound familiar to you?
But at that time in my life also, I had nothing to lose. I said, you know what, I performed for almost 10 years up until this point. I'm really happy with what I've already accomplished, and this is just my last kind of hurrah. Like, if I don't make that, that's okay. I'm very content with what I've done. But I wanted, as the competitive person that I am and the perfectionist that I am, I really wanted to go out and just do as much as I could, as best as I could.
And so, like, just before you were about to perform, 5 minutes, they're going to introduce you, or you're going to the judge. Were there judges sitting there?
There were, and they were not friendly. I
They
know a
rarely
couple of
are.
them now. I know a couple of them now, and they're wonderful people. But let me tell you what, in that environment,
Yikes.
they are not friendly. Basically, your number was called. You know, they don't go by name.
What was your number? Do you remember?
I think I was 100. Even 100. I think I kept it. I framed
Ah,
it.
see, I knew it
afterwards.
was an important number.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
how did you feel? What did you do to prepare? What was going through your mind?
To prepare, I just had a couple weeks to prepare, actually.
And
so-
5 minutes before, how did you
And
prepare?
5 minutes before, I prayed.
Prayed.
I prayed.
Legal in the audition process, by the way.
I prayed hard. Just
And if I may, and if it's not too personal, what did you pray for?
mostly to stay calm and to do my best and to accept whatever the outcome was. You know, to know that, to trust that whatever happens was meant to be, and that's a tough place to be, because sometimes what is best is not always what we want. So,
Not what I want.
so yes,
I want you to help me, but whatever is
I
meant
did
to
not
be.
pray that
but
everyone else would
seriously.
break their legs. I did not. I was tempted, but I did not.
Very good.
And you know, they put you through this rigorous audition process. They make you do push-ups and sit-ups and, you know, flexibility and strength and tumbling and trampoline and all this stuff. And you see all these other people doing it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I can't do what they did. I don't look like that, you know. And then you just go, and then you just have to do your thing, you know. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. You just have to focus on you and to do your absolute best. And that's what I did for 2 straight days. And somehow I was the only female left standing at the end of 2 days. And the other 5 guys that were also with me at the end, you know, just kind of looked around like, what just happened? It was crazy.
Well, and you also don't know what the judges are looking for.
No.
You can
absolutely.
see other people.
We don't
and
know what show they're looking for. We don't even know what act they're looking for. It could be an aerialist act. It could be a diving. It could be, I mean, there's so many different areas that they could be looking for. You have no idea. So you just try to do your best.
Any final thoughts?
I guess I would just encourage everybody to go for it, no matter what. I mean, doesn't matter what people say, doesn't matter what people think, doesn't matter what you think sometimes. You know, if you really want something and desire, you have to go for it, because you don't know what the outcome will be. You might surprise yourself, you know?
And if someone's sitting here watching this and they have a dream that maybe they gave up on, what would you tell them?
I know that dreams can change and goals in your life, depending on where you're at. If you've been disappointed, if you've been let down, if you've been, you know, discouraged in one area, go for something else. You know, people have so many different talents, and I'm sure that there's not just one thing you're good at or that you want to do with life. So I would just say really try to tailor your dreams and goals to where you're at in life right now, and always be pushing yourself. Always, you know, make yourself better no matter what, and you can't go wrong. Even if you don't necessarily get that one goal and dream, you'll be a better person for it.
Well, Jessi Fisher, thank you very much for spending this time with us. O Performer live at Bellagio. If you get to Vegas, come check out O, and you'll see Jessi. She'll be the only female from the highest point. So, Jessi Fisher, thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And thank you to Cirque du Soleil for letting us do this interview with Jessi. If you got a dream, Jessi says go for it. Jessi's giving us a tour.
This is our beautiful auditorium. It seats almost 2,000 people, twice a night. There is water back here, so watch your step.
Okay.
This is one of my famous apparatus, the Russian swing. I love it.
So you do that one?
Yeah, I jump off and flip around. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Sweet.
All right, this is one of our training rooms. People can work out, they can learn new choreography, they can learn new apparatus. You can look above, they've got trapezes and hoops and all kinds of costumes. And all the flags that are around the room are actually countries represented in our show. So yeah, they have workout equipment in here. I don't know why, because nobody really works out.
How much time do you spend here?
When you're first learning the show, a lot of time. You have to learn the show, the choreography, the acts, hours and hours and hours. But once you know the show, you're pretty much set. You come in, you warm up, you do the show, and you go home.
All right. Well, Jessi, thanks for showing us around.
You are welcome. My pleasure.